What is going on, Only Playbook fans? We are back. I am so excited about this episode, Shovit. You know why? Because the draft is a month and a half away, and we are talking about the cream of the crop of the 2024 NFL draft, the quarterbacks. So much to talk about. The combine just happened. A lot of these big name guys, didn't really do anything, so they're going to wait till their pro day. But despite all of that, I want to break down all of the quarterback prospects, at least the top six. What your thoughts are, where you think they can go, what you like about them, what you dislike about them. And I always like to try to throw in like a real player comparison, even though a lot of times it's not apples to apples comparisons, but It gives the viewers and the people that listen at least an idea of who this player relates to or kind of looks like or acts like or plays like. So how are you feeling after diving into the film of these quarterbacks in a year where the Steelers don't really have a quarterback?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we've got Kenny Pickett, but you need a quarterback as the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, he's getting older. I would like a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph. And there's a lot to go around. It's going to be interesting to see what falls down to the 20th pick for the Steelers. But there's a lot of talent, man. There's a lot of talent in this draft that we haven't seen in drafts like, 2-3 years prior. So lots to be excited about. And the number one pick is going to be a quarterback. So lots to talk about.
Yeah, and before we get into it, I want to preface this by saying everything I talk about, I'm sure you talk about, we're projecting these prospects, right? These are not finished products. We don't know what the hell they're going to do coming into the NFL. The best prospects can come and be busts. The shittiest prospects like Brock Purdy can come and almost win a Super Bowl. So when we throw out names, when I throw out comparisons, when I throw out play styles, characteristics, it's not that I'm saying this player is this player, right? I'm just saying there's mannerisms, there's characteristics, qualities that remind me of said player. At least in the TikTok, I know sometimes in the comments I'll get bashed saying, oh, this guy looks like Patrick Mahomes. And I'm like, dude, I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying there's qualities and characteristics that remind me of Patrick Mahomes. So I want to get that out there before we start throwing out names. But first and foremost, Shovit, honorable mention for me, he was number 6 in terms of my top 6 rankings. And he is, in fact, Bo Nix, quarterback out of Oregon. Was he also 6 for you on the top 6 quarterbacks?
Yeah, so I have the same list as you do. Yeah, he's definitely 6 on my list. Yep.
Okay, so for me, I'll start. My pros with Bo Nix is he has a ton of college experience, right? So he went from Auburn to Oregon. He was a starter at Auburn, a lot of potential, but very, very erratic, not the career that he wanted to get off to. And he ended up transferring via the transfer portal to Oregon. Oregon offense, just so much better, right? An offense where the quarterback gets the ball out quickly, lets the playmakers create, a la like a San Francisco 49ers type offense. That's why a lot of what he did, he has similarities to Brock Purdy. The way he moves, he's very mobile. He can operate an NFL offense. He can make a lot of throws across the middle. I think what Bo Nix really lacks is he's not amazing at anything, right? Nothing that he does really jumps out. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. He's not the biggest. He doesn't have the best arm, and he's not the most accurate. But when you don't have one true characteristic that stands out, a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, this guy's probably a pretty average player across the board. But with the quarterback position, when you're above average at everything, you can run an NFL offense. And I think to me, when we look at Kenny Pickett 2 years ago coming out, right? Well, the biggest plus with Kenny Pickett was he's the most NFL ready. Whatever the hell that means, he's the most NFL ready, which means you could drop him into an NFL offense today and he would at least know how to operate it. Now, that doesn't mean he'll operate it well, but it means he knows how to operate the NFL offense. And that's how I feel about Bo Nix. I think he can operate an NFL offense. I think he can, get the job done, but I don't think he's a game changer. That's why I think he's so much further down the board than these other quarterbacks to me. I think he can come in the right environment, right situation, right team, can make a difference, but I just don't think he's going to move the needle enough to be a franchise quarterback that, teams are jumping at the bit to go after. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. The biggest quality that he brings to the table is the fact of his growth from 2022 to 2023, right? His stats, over 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. So he's good at making smart decisions. But I think that, does that translate to the NFL level? And that's going to be the big question, where he goes and whether they can develop him. And you're right. There's not anything flashy about him. He does check down a lot. And so with that, if you don't have that great athletic trait that's bringing you into the next level, how are you going to be able to succeed and be, one of the top quarterbacks? So I think there's a lot of question marks given the fact, and that's kind of the reason why he's 6th and behind some of these greater prospects that are out there. So I think that he's probably, I mean, he's a late first rounder because it seems like everybody needs a quarterback, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's second round, that he gets drafted in. So just a lot of, just question marks on his talents is where I'm at with Bo Nix.
Yeah, I think, and let's talk about how people draft, right? You have players that have a ton of production in college and they don't have a ton of upside. So you're like, has this player really maximized what they're going to be already at the age that they're currently at? And then you have guys that get drafted based on traits. They don't have much production at all in college. All you're doing is projecting what they're going to do once they fill into their body, once they really learn everything. And with Bo Nix, I think he's already developed pretty well to what he's going to become. And again, nothing is moving the needle for me saying, if I'm looking at Bo Nix, what's his real true X factor? And he doesn't really have one. So that's why it's hard to really get excited about him. But that does not mean that he can't come into the NFL and completely succeed, right? He could run an offense to the T, run the playbook, understand all of the pre-snap checkdowns, where to go, all that stuff. And that's something that, as much as we want to project with prospects, if they're not in a college pro style offense, which very little colleges are, all you're doing is projecting that because you have no idea. You don't even know if the number one prospect in the NFL or in the draft can, read defenses the way NFL players are required to read defenses. All you can do is project based on what you've seen. And to me, I think Bo Nix can do that. I just don't know that when you're jumping from the college to the NFL level with how big of a athletic and skill jump everybody else on the field is going to have around Bo Nix, I don't know if he can make a big enough jump to then truly separate himself like he did in college, right? I think the gap and the margin of what his athleticism really means in college versus the pros, it's going to slim down. How his arm strength isn't quite next level compared to like Michael Penix, that's going to be less because the windows are going to be smaller. The players are going to be faster jumping to the ball. So all of that really leads me to believe that I think he's going to be a good, not great prospect. I think, again, you could drop him into an NFL offense and maybe he could run it, but I just don't know if he's going to move the needle. Brock Purdy, Alex Smith, kind of those guys who manage the game well, but don't necessarily, again, change the game, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you probably, if you're drafting a quarterback in the first round and you're one of the teams that aren't very good, top 10 pick or top 15, you're expecting your quarterback to have start day one. And I don't know if Bo Nix is someone that you could confidently start day one. I think he's going to probably need a year under, just being on the bench in the NFL before he gets to that point, if he ever does.
Yeah. And I mean, in a perfect world, every prospect would have a year to sit down and learn. And like you said, where you're getting drafted a lot of time forces the hand of the franchise to be like, yo, dude, we drafted you top 3. You kind of have to start. Or, like the Bo Nix is getting projected to the Broncos a lot at 12, which seems asinine and insanely high. But let's also look at the factors, right? Right now with mock draft show it, you have like 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the top going in the top 5. And then you have a Broncos team that literally just cut Russell Wilson and $85 million to the cap to not have him play on their team, which means they have no quarterback, which means they have to draft a quarterback or they have to go out and sign a free agent. And if free agent doesn't seem likely because you already have a guy that could have been on your team off the books with all that money. So it only makes sense that they bring in somebody who's cheap, next to nothing, a rookie quarterback. And that's a situation where you could see a reach because you have no choice. You have no quarterback right now under center to command that offense. So somebody has to go there. So that's kind of what I see. I'm with you. I don't love Bo Nix. I don't hate Bo Nix. He's just one of those tweeners to me where he's going to have to really win with his brain and his mind and his processing because his physical athletic traits aren't, supreme. Number 5 on the board, shove it, Mr. Cannon himself, Michael Penix Jr., lefty southpaw from Washington. He is 6'2", 216 pounds. For me, this guy has got an NFL arm. I mean, if you want to talk about a guy that can just drop back and throw the football, this guy's probably got a better arm than 10 to 12 quarterbacks who are already in the NFL right now. I think he's got really good power. He's got really good accuracy. His accuracy can be erratic at times simply because he trusts his arm so much that a lot of how he throws is just full upper body. And I don't know if that's two things. One, he trusts his arm so much and his arm's really good, so it makes sense. Two, this guy came off 2 torn ACLs, so the lower half of his body has been bruised and beaten down. So is there a lack of trust in your lower body? Is it more so where, he's just twerking from his upper body and his arm, and that's where he's generating a lot of the power? But I can see sometimes his footwork's not great because he's not using his lower body at all to throw the ball, but it's not mattering because he's got a cannon and he was throwing to 3 perennial NFL receivers at Washington. So I think he is really, really good in terms of, if you need a quarterback to just drop back and make passes and run an offense, he can do that. He is a true pocket passer, but because of those 2 torn ACLs, his mobility is completely limited. And when I say limited, it's not just, he's not running. I don't love his pocket mobility and awareness either, because again, I think a lot of times he looks for his arm to bail him out, where he's like, I don't need to shuffle 2 steps to the right. My arm is strong enough for me to be able to make that pass from where I'm standing. And I don't know that that's going to hurt him for sure in the NFL, because again, players are just going to be so much faster anticipating all of that crap, and you're not going to be able to get by with that. So that's what I love about Penix. I think he's a true pocket passer. I think he's got an NFL arm, but I think in this generation of NFL, Chauvin, everybody wants a guy that can just be slightly mobile, that can at least create a little bit. And Penix, although was able to do that in Indiana after his 2 torn ACLs, he hasn't really showcased that much at all. So I just don't know if he has that in his arsenal anymore. And I think that's going to be the reason that teams aren't as high on him. They don't want to project him into the future because he's almost already a finished product. But that finished product to me could be dropped into an NFL offense right now, and he would thrive.
Man, there are so many red flags with Michael Penix Jr. He is 23 years old, right? The ACL issues, the injuries issues are certainly a concern. And you mentioned that he has and his pros is that, he does have a strong arm talent, good at making decisions and things like that. But also with that, he's a pocket quarterback, but his accuracy isn't all that great at all times, right? So like if you're not utilizing your legs when you don't have those matchups, or sometimes you do need to be able to evade the pocket, and if you don't have that skill, I'm fearful that in the NFL, this guy's just going to be someone that gets to a team and it's just going to be an afterthought after a couple of years. And so I think that his mobility, like you mentioned, is certainly a concern, and his accuracy issues. I don't think that that in itself takes him out of the first round for me. It's crazy to see that this guy's in the first round, given his injuries and all the concerns that I just mentioned.
The quarterback is just such a sought after position that, remember 2 years ago, the year with Kenny Pickett, we were talking about Malik Willis going in the first round. The dude didn't even get drafted till the 3rd round. Right. So it's really just about supply and demand and what the market really dictates. Right. So like, I always just think back to when the Vikings drafted Christian Ponder. We were in a situation where we had no quarterback and we knew we needed a quarterback, but all the top quarterbacks went before it was our turn to pick. And so when you're a team that's in that situation, again, let's talk back to the Broncos. If Daniels, May, Williams, even McCarthy all go in the top 10 and Denver's sitting there with no quarterback on the roster, Michael Penix is another guy that, again, he could come into an offense and operate it. I don't know how well, simply because of the things you mentioned, Chauvin. He lacks mobility. And when he lacks mobility, if he's not mobile, you expect him to at least be incredibly accurate, like Kirk Cousins. Okay, you want to be a pocket passer, then you should be accurate. But because he's not mobile enough and he's not like a dime dropping accurate quarterback, can you develop the accuracy? Because the way I look at it, the hindrances in his game go hand in hand. They coincide. The fact that he's only using his upper body because he doesn't trust his lower body because of the injuries, that's what's leading him to not be mobile. That's also what's leading him to limit his accuracy because he's just using his upper body to throw. So even though the medicals came back fine for him at the combine, there's a lot that you can't really quantify when it comes to, like, somebody gets hurt and a lot of times their confidence is shot and you never know how comfortable they are again with planting that same foot, with hoping that, with not hoping that they re-injure it. And this guy's had 2 ACL tears. So that's happened twice to his brain now, where he has to think about the fact that there is another ACL tear potentially waiting to happen. So I think because of that, he is extremely flat-footed at times. And I really, really want to believe that's a psychological aspect to him realizing that he's torn his ACLs twice. But if somebody can, if there's some NFL science guy that can talk that out of him and be like, you, dude, it just changes your level of prospect if you can just somewhat utilize your legs, similar to my size comparison, CJ Stroud, right? Last year, Stroud wasn't mobile, but an incredible pocket passer. But can he utilize some of his mobility? Because he has it, he just doesn't use it. Penix has it. He just doesn't use it anymore because it seems like he's scared that he's going to get hurt again. Will somebody in the NFL be able to unlock that? Will he be able to see that in order for him to be a true successful NFL quarterback, there has to be some form of mobility to his game? Otherwise, like you said, you can't draft him in the first round. I mean, he could be 27 years old and have like a Tom Brady caliber arm. But in this NFL, again, if you're an absolute statue, unless you're going to the perfect situation where you have perfect bookend tackles that you're never going to get rushed and no pressure is ever going to come, you're going to have to learn how to be mobile, or at least how to be effective in the pocket. And that's what I think Penix lacks.
Yeah, 100%. And like one of his biggest cons also is the fact that under pressure, he doesn't handle the pressure very well. And so if you don't have that mobility to, make something happen, that's going to be certainly an issue that we've seen the greats. I mean, that's what separates them from the not so greats, right? Being able to be a playmaker in those types of situations. And I'm just not confident in that. Now, go into the right system, like you mentioned earlier when we first started this, that could all change. And, even though he may end up being decent with the right coaching, but just a higher uphill battle than some of these other quarterbacks that we'll talk about.
Yeah. I'd say my play style comparison was Tua, obviously with the left arm. But I think Tua has more touch and more accuracy on his passing. Penix actually has a better arm, in my opinion. I think Penix has a stronger arm, but Tua's just got an insane touch on his throw that Penix hasn't developed yet. But Penix could develop into that. Again, time will tell, situation will tell. But right now, I'm with you. I don't have a first round grade on him just because there's too much unknown, too much uncertainty, and his upside's really limited if he decides that he's just not going to be mobile, which it seems like that's what he's decided.
I wonder if his ceiling is like a guy like Geno Smith. Right. I wonder if that's as good as, and Geno Smith is a solid starter, but it took him a while to get to that, pretty good starting where you can be confident in your quarterback position. Because at the Jets, that wasn't the case. And until Seattle, that happened later on in his career. So, you could see something like that with Michael Penix, maybe.
Yeah, we could see some late bloomers for sure. Speaking of late bloomers, this is actually an early bloomer. I don't know if he's quite bloomed yet, but number 4 on the list is J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan, 6'2", 220 pounds. I was actually surprised that he weighed in at 220 at the combine. I think the talk was that he's a very slender 6'2". He was playing at Michigan, I think, right around 200 or 205. So for him to put on 15, 20 pounds really helps his case. Let's talk about it, Shobit. The pros with J.J. McCarthy. The dude has a cannon. He has an absolute, really, really strong arm. So much velocity behind the football that he can fit the ball into tight windows. He's not an incredible athlete, but he's good enough. Like, he's mobile enough that I think he can get by. But his cons are so much bigger than his pros. His pros are all complete projections that he can become a player that you want him to be. His cons are that he hasn't been that. Michigan only required him to throw the football 10 to 15 to 20 times a game, sometimes less than 10 times. Their defense and their running game was incredible. So you never saw J.J. McCarthy do what you expect an NFL quarterback to do. So truly, this is a player that everything that you're wanting or you're drafting him, hoping he's gonna become, it's all a projection because we have not seen any of it. And that comes with a ton of fear and a ton of uncertainty. Let me get this straight though. I really like JJ McCarthy. I think his arm is really lively. I think the mobility, I think his intelligence. When you play for Michigan, you play under Harbaugh, you win a national championship. I want to give kudos for people that win, even though, people talk about quarterbacks not being a quarterback stat. I just think a quarterback has the most influence in the game of any other player. So, even if it's not directly one-to-one their comparison or their stat, they really have the most impact and influence on that. So I think for JJ McCarthy to be a winner, for him to protect the football in a situation where he wasn't asked to do much, that is a strength of his. But we have no idea if we're sitting in the NFL and JJ McCarthy is playing for the Commanders and he's down 45-7 to the Chiefs. Is he going to be able to drop back and throw the football 60 times? I have no earthly idea because he's never once done it. So that is the fear with JJ McCarthy. The size comparison is really like a slimmer Kenny Pickett. I say slimmer, but he weighed in at 220, which is close to Kenny Pickett. So he's really, truly a Kenny Pickett comp, but I don't really have a play style comparison for him because he's got a stronger arm than Kenny Pickett. So it's not really a one-to-one comparison there. I just don't really know of somebody that, comes into my brain when I think of JJ McCarthy. He's a little bit unique in that sense, but what's crazy is he is climbing these draft boards, like just absolutely skyrocketing. PFF had him, I believe, when we first started talking about the offseason back in February or January, second round grade, 40, 45 range in the second round. And right now, I believe there's so many mock drafts that have him going top 10. So what are your thoughts with JJ McCarthy? Do you think that he's got the potential to fill into the top 10 potential that everybody's talking about with him? Or do you really think that's another projection similar to like Will Levis getting pushed up the draft boards last year only to go in the second round? Where's your head at with JJ?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of scouting that needs to be happened by the by the NFL pro days and things like that. But right now, I think JJ McCarthy is kind of benefiting from being that quarterback outside of the top three. The top three quarterbacks are gone. You need that. You need a quarterback on your team, and he's the first person that comes to mind. And he's a winner. He won with Michigan. Yes, they didn't ask him to do a lot of things, but he's got a strong arm. He's got the ability to make the right decisions, check downs if needed. And, he uses his eyes and goes through his progressions as well. So I think that with the way the draft is going to go, he's the next guy available if you're outside of the top 5 pick or top 4. You got it. And I think that there's certainly the fact that he didn't have enough opportunities to showcase his skill is definitely a con into drafting him in wherever he's going right now, maybe top 10. But I think that there's a lot to like about him. The leadership skills, what you want to see as a quarterback, the intangibles, the confidence. Also add in some mobility as well. He's got some mobility as well, making complex reads. Those are all things to like about JJ McCarthy. And I think that it warrants where the fact that he is moving up in these rankings. And I think he's got a lot to show that we just haven't seen from Michigan, but I think only time will tell how good this guy can be.
Yeah, I think he's got similar moxie to Joe Burrow. Like he has that kind of just presence about him where, I watched all of his interviews at the pro day. He threw at his pro day. His pro day went really, really well. And I think he's just very well versed. He's intelligent when it comes to being a quarterback. He understands defenses. He understands coverages. And again, you play for Harbaugh. So I think that automatically comes with some, something where it's like, you weren't playing in a college system where like Malik Willis was playing at Liberty, right? He's playing in college for Harbaugh. It's one of the best programs in all of college football, and he won a national championship. So I think there is a lot to like, but like you said, it's Russian roulette because you're banking on him filling out all of the prospect profile that everybody has of him. And when you're asking a player to showcase something that he has not yet showcased, but he has to showcase it at the highest level of this sport possible, you just don't know. Like I truly, truly don't know. I think I really like him as a prospect. I would take a chance if I'm the Vikings at 11 and all three of the guys are gone. I would make a run at McCarthy. I don't know if I would take him at 11. I don't know if I would have to trade up for him in the top 10 based on all this smoke and mirrors. In another world, we were taking McCarthy in the second and loving it, but that doesn't seem like a realistic possibility anymore. So would I like to take a risk on JJ McCarthy in the first round as a Vikings fan? I think if Kirk Cousins is coming back, then you certainly can't take a quarterback that's not going to impact your team right away in day one in the first round. You're going to have to get defense. You're going to have to surround Kirk with talent to win now. But if Kirk is not coming back and Kevin O'Connell identifies JJ as his guy, I have to trust the coaches. I have to trust these people in the NFL that say, this is my guy, and see it through before I make judgments. But I'd be lying if I said there's a ton of uncertainty with JJ McCarthy, and he could easily be a Trey Lance where you're like, oh, he's 21. He's got a great arm. He just hasn't played much. If he can fill into his body, if he can play more, he's going to be the real deal. And Trey Lance has not, seen a real snap in the NFL yet. So similar situation could play out for JJ McCarthy. But I think as a prospect, there is a lot to like. Like I mentioned, to me, he's got a slimmer Kenny Pickett vibe to him, but a better arm, better mobility. And again, like I think it goes without saying, when you're a leader and you're a leader of football players in a locker room like Michigan, I don't think he's going to struggle coming into the NFL and leading a locker room full of men.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, and he's met with 11 teams so far, Minnesota being one of them, New England, New York, who probably want to get rid of or get away from Daniel Jones, Denver, New Orleans, Seattle. All these guys are looking for quarterbacks that are not confident who they have right now, and JJ McCarthy could be someone that they can go out and target.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the top three, Shovit. Number 3 in the top 3, Jaden Daniels, LSU quarterback, 6'4", a slender 210 pounds. I'm going to let you kick this one off, my man. What did you like about Jaden Daniels, and what do you dislike?
Dude, there's a lot of things not to dislike about Jaden Daniels, man. This
Yeah.
guy is a playmaker. Rushing ability, making him like it's a complete game changer, right? High
Mhm.
completion rate, is able to zip the ball, ability to make a wide range of throws. Showcasing his versatility, and he's really good under pressure as well. So I think he's a Heisman Trophy winner. So we know he's got the skills to be able to do it. The only con that I have about him is that maybe he's too athletic in the sense that, like, will he just rely on his athleticism that limits his passing opportunities? You want to be able to see a good balance, using your legs when you need to, but with the RPO being a thing, this guy is going to be a serious threat, and I think day one I would be scared to play against him.
Yeah, man, his athleticism gives him such a nice floor, right? We oftentimes identify these freak athletic quarterbacks and say, oh, dude, the ceiling is insane, but they could be a bust. Well, Jaden Daniels, for a guy who runs like Lamar Jackson, his pocket presence is insane. He's got a great drop back. He's got a compact throw. It looks like he's been playing quarterback for a long, long time. So a lot of his mechanics are very mature and pro style ready. I think my biggest fear for him is in college, he took a shit ton of hits because he loves to run the football, right? A lot of one read, it's not there. You're going to tuck it down and run it. You want to see him be able to be a better decision maker. One thing I noticed is you're playing at LSU with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., who are going to be first round receivers this year. And a lot of Jaden Daniels throws were throwing to wide open guys, right? And this is one thing that I've started to just always be aware of when it comes to quarterbacks. Is a quarterback throwing to a wide open receiver, or is a quarterback throwing a receiver open? And I think when you can throw, like college quarterbacks, many college quarterbacks cannot throw receivers open, right? That's something you probably develop in the NFL. But when a guy can do that, man, that's a game changer. But my fear is with Jaden Daniels, he doesn't do that. And similar to, let's talk about maybe Justin Fields coming out of college, was throwing to some of the best receivers at Ohio State. They were just running 10, 15 yards open, right? Separation was always there. You never had to worry about if that receiver was getting open. And that's how Jaden Daniels was with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. So my fear is that when that first read isn't there, can he go through his progressions? Can he not just tuck it down? Like, he has to truly want to be a passing quarterback and then utilize his legs as a secondary weapon. And I think he can do that. I think, obviously coaching, all of that's going to come into play. My biggest fear for him is that he goes to the Patriots at 3. And, I don't know what any quarterback that goes to the Patriots at 3, I'm very fearful that their career is over. So I don't want to, I don't know that that's going to happen, but it's just a really shitty situation right now because they have nothing. So I don't know how you can, plop a quarterback in there and expect him to change things around. But with Jaden Daniels, he's a taller RG3 is kind of my size comparison with him, but the play style truly is running the football, the start and stop, the way he can like stop and then cut back and all that. It's all Lamar Jackson, but he also has a little bit of Tyrod Taylor in him where he's gliding, he's smooth. The way his dropbacks are, his compact like upper body and the way he throws really reminds me of Tyrod Taylor. But I think he's an athletic Tyrod Taylor that's got a better arm than Tyrod Taylor that could truly form into a Lamar Jackson. But again, I sit here personally, Chauvin, every year we watch the Ravens and Lamar's taking a hit. I'm worried that that's it for him because he's so slender and the way he moves and all that. But he's figured out a way to contort his body, to fall down, to do all these things where he's not just getting smashed by these NFL players. And I think that's the biggest thing. If Jaden Daniels wants to be successful, he's not watching tape of Lamar Jackson and how he's throwing the football, how he's running, any of that. He's watching tape of Lamar Jackson not taking hits. How is this man evading hits when he's so mobile? That's the key to Jaden Daniels' success.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's just there's just too much to like about him, and I think that like if I was to, I would like Caleb Williams is gone. You have to choose between Drake May and Jaden Daniels. If you're trying to get to that new style offense, I think that there's a lot to like. And then his, not to take away from his passing abilities, man, those touch passes, some of those deep bombs. I understand it's the Malik Neighbors, and it's still something to be excited about from your quarterback. So yeah. I'm super excited to see where Jaden Daniels lands.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He is electric. Purple and yellow coming from the college to the pros to another purple and yellow team. That would be sick. We would love to see that. All right, let's get into the top two. Shove it. Drake May, UNC quarterback, 6'4", 230 pounds. Talk to me about Drake May.
Oh man, Drake May, dude, this guy, just the guy that you feel like he's gonna come into the NFL and just do what all white boys that come into the NFL do, like the Joe Burrows and Justin Herbert, like just amazing arm strength, accuracy. He's able to make next level NFL throws, and he's also got good athleticism. And he can improvise as well. So just a lot to like from Drake May. I think that the only con I would say is being consistent. I don't know if like under pressure and in crucial moments, how consistent that might be an issue, and making like risky decisions at times as well. So I think that is certainly something to be worried about, but those are all coachable situations. I think the talent, arm talent, and the precision is enough for me to say this guy can be something special in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think most draft classes, you would be the top quarterback. But this isn't most draft classes when it comes to the quarterback position. There's a lot to like with Drake May. He's got the really nice size, 6'4", 230 pounds. My biggest pro with Drake May is so many quarterbacks are afraid to throw the football in the middle of the field. And it's not just college quarterbacks. There are pro quarterbacks that have made a career by not throwing the football across the middle of the field, a la Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's going to be a borderline Hall of Famer, and the dude just did not throw the football across the middle of the field. Neither does Kyler Murray. What do they have in common? They're both short. They can't fucking see across the middle of the field to make that throw. That is not a problem for Drake May. He is the best in the class at throwing the football across the middle of the field. He's obviously got the size. He can see over the linemen. And I think what's really nice about him is he's athletic. He's got like this Josh Allen, Sam Howell type athleticism where he's like rumbling and bumbling, like he's not the fastest, but he's got a stocky build to where he's strong. He can take on contact, and he's not a guy where you're like, God damn, if he gets tackled in the NFL, he could get hurt. No, dude, he's stocky. So I think there is a lot to like. His traits are all plus: athletic, strong arm, throws across the middle of the field. He's got an ideal size. His size comparison is Trey Lance. I mean, they're built very similarly, but my biggest con with Drake May, and it's one of those cons that a lot of college quarterbacks have, and you hit the nail on the head, it's consistency, but specifically consistency with his accuracy. So a lot of times he can be erratic with his accuracy. I think, again, when you're a physical freak, when you're a quarterback and you're better than most everybody on the field, you try to get away with things, right? You try to get away with your deficiencies by utilizing what your strengths are, which is I'm athletic, I'm a freak, I can run around, I can make things happen. And a lot of college athletes aren't going to be as good as I am. So that's the advantage I have. Well, again, coming into the NFL, he's just not going to have that advantage. So I think what's going to have to get better is his 3-step drop, quick throw, 5-step drop, quick out, 7-step drop, post across the middle. Those timing patterns where he has to be on time and he has to be accurate, that's going to be the biggest thing for him. Sometimes he can be a notch too slow, a step too slow with his reads. But again, it's a situation where he's so talented that it's like he sees he reads one side of the field, and it's almost like you watch his tape and it's like he looked over there, but did he really wait to see what the receiver was doing? No, he already kind of made up his mind of what he was going to do, because again, he's a college quarterback. He's more athletic than most people, and UNC had one receiver who was really good and everybody else sucked. So it was a one read. If Devontae Walker is getting open, I'm going to throw it. If not, I'm going to make a play with my legs. So situationally, I think what's important to remember is when you're in the NFL, you're going to have a lot more, your teammates are going to be a lot better. So you're going to have a lot more of a supporting system around you. So he won't have to play as much hero ball. But again, his play style to me is a mixture of Justin Herbert and Sam Howell. He's got the arm strength to be Justin Herbert. He's got the mobility to be Sam Howell. Now, can he mold himself into the best version of the two? We'll see. We will see. Situation is going to dictate that. But that's really where I stand with Drake May. A lot to like. And if your biggest knock on a college prospect is just a little bit of consistency, like I think that's a very big win.
100%. I mean, should be the second pick of this year's NFL draft.
Should be. That's it, Shove It. Let's talk about the number one guy. I have been waiting to talk about Mr. Caleb Williams, 6'1", 215 pounds. I'm gonna let you start. Because I could talk forever. Tell me what you like about Caleb Williams.
Dude, Caleb Williams, man, this guy is just a playmaker, dude. Like finds ways to evade the pocket and just be able to throw on 1 foot, throw on maybe 0 feet. I don't know. He can make it happen. He's got amazing arm strength. Just basically can make any throw in the field effortlessly. And incredible accuracy as well, especially on the run. He's able to do that. And you know, he's got it all in terms of what he can do. You kind of see, and I know you talked about this in the TikTok, but Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes-esque like
100%.
ability to make things happen just out of nowhere. So a lot of things to like from Caleb Williams. My only thing that I would say is concerning is that, is he going to rely on his legs too much? We also saw a lot of tape that I saw personally was where USC had this great pocket. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but it seemed like he was like there for 4 or 5 seconds and then he's getting to throw off, right? So like that's like already something that's going to help you. Like that's already, you as a quarterback's dream, being able to be in the pocket for that long and not being sacked. But when the good thing about it is if he's there for too long, he's able to evade the pocket and make something out of nothing. So, talent wise, you got it. Playmaker wise, you have it. Will that translate to the next level? Will that be something that is he going to be just like a Johnny Manziel, or is he going to be some guy that comes in and just is a Patrick Mahomes and tears and it's going to dictate, where the Bears are the Bears going to be able to mold him into this player that he should be. They weren't able to do it with Justin Fields, so that's what I worry about long term. But for sure, with the talents that he has and everything that we've seen from tape, you go on and get this guy.
Improvisation skills are second to none, right? That's the biggest thing is this guy can make a home run play. Any given play can turn into a home run with him. Now, I've seen that become one of his biggest knocks because when you have a prospect of this caliber, to be honest, there's very few cons because, again, your biggest con with any player you draft in the draft is they suck. They turn into a bust. Every prospect has the opportunity to become a bust. I don't care if they're prospect 100, prospect 365, right? So with Caleb Williams, the biggest knock is every play at USC felt like it had to be a home run play. Can he just play in structure? Can he, if I think the Johnny Manziel comp is kind of a spot on in a way because that's the fork in the road where it can go two ways. Manziel was a out of structure king in college, right? Scrambling left and right, throwing it up to Mike Evans, blah, blah, blah. But very rarely did you ever see Johnny Manziel 3-step drop, just quick throw, 5-step drop. Let's make 3 reads and make that throw. That was never part of his game. And that never happened in the pros. And so he flamed out. With Caleb Williams, I personally don't think processing is a problem. I don't think like reading the defense, reading the coverage, I don't think any of that is a problem. I think at USC, after Jordan Addison left last year, they didn't have a ton of talent. Brandon Rice is probably going to be a 3rd, 4th round receiver. There's another guy, Taj Washington, maybe another late round, probably receiver. But with him, with how bad this defense was at USC, they were probably giving up 45 to 50 points a game. If that offense was not scoring every play, they were going to lose. So it felt like every play, if the 6-yard in is there, Caleb's looking for that 65-yard dive, right? He's not looking for the 6-yard in. He's not looking for the 9-yard hitch. He's looking for the 19-yard post. He's looking for the 29-yard corner route. So I don't know if that's going to be a true problem in the NFL, right? It's hard to know if a guy's going to be like, I'm playing in a league where the talent is so much superior. I'm not going to have to make a home run play every time. The Bears, if it is the Bears, they're in a much better situation than they were 2 years ago, right? Their defense is getting a lot better. They have DJ Moore. They have Cole Kmet. They have running backs. They have another top 10 pick where they can draft another playmaker for Caleb Williams. I don't think any of that's going to be a true issue in the NFL. The issue in college was the fact that it felt like he did that way too much, but I don't fault him for that because his team was pretty trash. So I think if that's your biggest problem, again, when we're talking about prospects, your biggest problem with him is that he's too much of a playmaker, is that he's too off script, he's making too many plays happen. That's not a problem. That is a great problem to have. That is what everybody wants. You want an Aaron Rodgers. You want a Patrick Mahomes. Aaron Rodgers is the guy he idolizes. He models his game after, right? And you can see that. You can see the mannerisms like Patrick Mahomes. You can see the way he runs and like lowers his body, a la Josh Allen. This guy has some of like the traits of the best of the best. It's just a matter of if you can put it all together and it can be consistent at the next level. If I was a GM, there would be no doubt in my mind that this guy would be number one. If I'm a quarterback needy team, I would be giving up the farm to trade up to get Caleb Williams. You're not going to find a prospect that has this caliber of potential very often, right? Very often. I looked back at Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a better prospect than Trevor Lawrence was. I look back at Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's a better NFL quarterback prospect, but Caleb Williams has a chance to be a better overall quarterback prospect. He has a chance to be really special because he does everything that most quarterbacks don't do. It's just that the thing that most quarterbacks have to do, which is be in the pocket, throw the football, timing, all that stuff. That's the stuff that people feel like they haven't seen enough from him in college, but I think that's all bullshit. I think there is plenty of that to see. I just think there's not enough situationally because of how bad USC was. So I absolutely adore Caleb Williams. This guy is truly a generational prospect, generational prospect, not player, prospect. He could be a bust of a player. So I just need people to remember when we say generational, it's because he is a prospect. He could completely turn into a bust. So again, play style comparison, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, size comparison. He's got a little bit of Tyrod Taylor, 6'1", 215. So he's not the biggest guy, but he's super athletic, super mobile. He's got a cannon for an arm, incredible accuracy. Intelligence is next level. There's really nothing to me that Caleb Williams cannot do.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bears are listening to this conversation, the Bears GM, I don't know his name,
Ryan
Poles, I think he would be sold on trading Justin Fields and then getting Caleb Williams, which I think that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more talent with Caleb Williams that could happen. That can, there's
untapped,
untapped talent, potential.
Yes.
That's the word I was looking for. More potential with Caleb Williams than Justin Fields. So I agree with you.
3 years of Fields, you're already 3 years into Fields. So worst case, Caleb Williams becomes Justin Fields, and you just bought yourself 3 more years of a cheap quarterback, right? So it can only go this way for the Bears. I think the Bears would be stupid to keep Fields. I think the Bears could entertain a trade offer because I've heard a lot of rumblings that the Commanders are trying to move up to 1, obviously with the hometown, the Cliff Kingsbury, all that connection. And I think even that move back could be a ransom, an absolute ransom that the Commanders have to give up. So if you're the Bears and you're not hell-bent on Caleb Williams, you're like, you know what, Jane Daniels, Drake May, we could take them all. We don't care. We can get another edge and get Drake May. They could totally be in the market to do something like that. But personally, I would not trade down. I would not miss out on the opportunity to draft Caleb Williams. I don't care if it's Drake May. I don't care if it's Jaden Daniels. To me, in this draft class, it's Caleb Williams, and then it's everybody else.
Man, I actually would probably think about drafting Drake May. Yeah. I think if you can get a good package and get some first-round picks for next year for that second pick, you still get a quarterback. I would be inclined to do that.
We'll see in 3 years how these prospects turn out, right? If that'd be a good decision or not. But right now, I think it's an incredibly just talented quarterback class. And, again, let's compare it to what we've seen in the past. We were having to talk about and talk up quarterback classes with Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis. And now we're looking at this quarterback class. But remember the quarterback class where we had Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and we thought that class was stacked. Everybody was going to pan out, and everybody didn't pan out. I think only one player out of all those guys has actually panned out. And even that's been kind of a disappointment. So you never truly know. But I think this year, if you're a quarterback or if you're a team that needs a quarterback, you're in a really, really nice spot because there are a ton of players to take that leap of faith on as your potential franchise guy. But that is all of the quarterbacks that we have. Honorable mention to some other guys we didn't talk about. Michael Pratt out of Tulane. I don't know what he's really going to do, but he's probably number 7 on the list if you had to talk about anybody. But next week, Shovit, you and I are going to break down the running backs, which is not as exciting because this is one of the worst running back classes I've ever seen. So not going to be an exciting one, but you got to do it. And then following that week will be the best episode, the best wide receiver class I think I have ever seen. So there's going to be a ton to talk about. Do you have any final words for the listeners on the quarterbacks of the 2024 class?
Yeah, if the Steelers GM are listening, let's go get that first pick or top 5 pick, man. Let's make it happen, but I don't think it will.
Trade up, Vikings. Trade up and get a quarterback. That's all I have to say to you. I am Sweetcard. That is Shovit. We are the only playbook. Have a fantastic week. We will see you guys next week.